Now, let's dive into the latest moves by the New York Mets, as the team continues to make roster adjustments ahead of the new season. There's some buzz around two players in particular, right-handed pitcher Dylan Covey and infielder Luis de Los Santos. Both have been assigned to Triple-A Syracuse after clearing waivers. Let's break down what this means for the Mets as they round out their roster for the upcoming season. Dylan Covey's journey with the Mets. Dylan Covey, a right-handed pitcher who signed a one-year split contract with the Mets earlier this offseason, has been assigned to Triple-A Syracuse. Covey didn't make it to the majors last season, as he was recovering from a right shoulder strain. However, he did show some solid minor league performance, posting a 2.66 ERA with 14 strikeouts in 20.1 innings. While he wasn't able to crack the Mets' big league roster this year, Covey's minor league numbers suggest he could be a useful depth piece for the Mets moving forward, especially if there are injuries or roster shuffling during the season. Luis de Los Santos, a glimpse of potential. Meanwhile, infielder Luis de Los Santos, who was claimed off waivers earlier this offseason, is another player who will continue his development in Triple-A. De Los Santos has only had a brief stint in the majors, with just 29 at-bats under his belt. However, he's shown some impressive production at the Triple-A level, finishing last season with an .816 OPS. His performance in the minors is something the Mets will be keeping an eye on. And should they need an infielder in the future, De Los Santos could be a solid option off the bench or as a fill-in for injuries. Conclusion. While these moves may not be the biggest headlines of the offseason, the Mets' decision to send Covey and De Los Santos to Triple-A reflects their strategy of stockpiling depth at both pitcher and position player. These players may not be on the major league roster right now, but both are valuable assets for the Mets as they continue to build a competitive squad in 2025. How do you feel about the Mets' roster moves so far? Do you think Covey or De Los Santos could make an impact for the Mets later this season? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and make sure to subscribe for more Mets updates as the season gets underway. Alright, Mets fans, gather round, because the long saga of Pete Alonso's free agency is finally over. And it ends with a twist. The Mets and Steve Cohen came out on top in a high-stakes staring contest against mega agent Scott Boras, securing a deal with Alonso that leaves Boras looking less than thrilled. In the end, the Mets get their slugger back, but Alonso's future is a bit more uncertain than he might have hoped. So what happened here? Did Boras fail to deliver the huge payday Alonso dreamed of? Stick around as we break it down. The battle over Pete Alonso. Let's rewind a bit. Pete Alonso, one of the top power hitters in MLB, entered free agency with hopes of scoring a huge, long-term deal. Back in June 2023, he turned down a $158 million, 7-year extension from the Mets, thinking he could land something bigger on the open market. And who did he turn to for that? None other than Scott Boras, the super agent known for getting top dollar for his clients. But here's the twist. Despite Alonso's impressive numbers, 226 home runs since 2019, trailing only Aaron Judge in that department, the market just didn't materialize like Boras had hoped. A lackluster 2024 season didn't help matters either. Alonso's chances of landing a mega deal like Freddie Freeman's $162 million contract faded fast. And by the start of 2025, it was clear he was going to have to settle for something shorter. The Mets, under the leadership of billionaire owner Steve Cohen, made a final offer of around $70 million for 3 years. Boras and Alonso balked, but eventually, somebody had to blink. The outcome. Fast forward to now. Alonso is back with the Mets, but the deal is far from the massive payday Boras was hoping for. Alonso signed a 2-year, $54 million contract with an opt-out after the 2025 season. This opt-out clause is a strategic move that allows Alonso to test the free agent waters again next winter. But it also shows that he's not locked into a long-term commitment just yet. The Mets get their power hitter back, and Alonso gets another shot at a bigger deal down the road. For the Mets, this is a huge win. Alonso is a fan favorite, a 4-time All-Star, and a guy who can anchor their lineup alongside superstar Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor. Together, that trio could rival the best defenses in the league, and Alonso's return makes the Mets a serious contender in the NL. For owner Steve Cohen, it's a statement. While he's been known for making big splashes in the market, he drew a line in the sand with Alonso's contract. Cohen wasn't going to be held hostage by Boras or any agent looking to extract every penny. It's a power move that's as much about principle as it is about baseball. The Boras perspective. But for Scott Boras, this deal is a tough pill to swallow. He's known for securing the highest possible contracts for his clients. But with Alonso, things didn't go as planned. Remember, Boras promised Alonso a massive payday when he took over as his agent. But after a year of negotiation and waiting, Boras couldn't deliver the long-term deal Alonso expected. Sure, $30 million a year is nice. It's the second largest average annual value for a first baseman, but it's a far cry from the $200 million plus deals that Boras usually locks down for his top-tier clients. This situation also highlights a broader trend in the game. Long-term, high-value contracts are becoming harder to come by, particularly for players entering their 30s. Teams are less focused on rewarding past performance and more focused on what a player can do in the future. For Alonso, who's 30 and coming off a somewhat underwhelming season, that uncertainty was enough to keep teams from committing to a huge deal. What's next for Alonso? So, what's the takeaway for Pete Alonso? While it's not a disaster, he gets to stay with the Mets. He's still making a boatload of money. And he'll have another shot at free agency in a year. The situation is a reminder that time doesn't always work in a player's favor. Alonso, despite his incredible power numbers, didn't secure the massive long-term deal he hoped for. And while he's still a top slugger, his age and the uncertainty surrounding his future performance mean that teams might not pay up the way they once did. That opt-out after 2025? It gives him the chance to test the market again. But it's a gamble, both for him and for the Mets. Conclusion. So, what do you think? Did the Mets make the right call? Was Boras too stubborn to adapt to the changing market? Let me know in the comments below. One thing is for sure, Alonso is back. And the Mets are better for it. Whether this turns into the long-term deal he was hoping for will depend on his performance in 2025. But right now, this is a win for Steve Cohen and the Mets. If you liked this breakdown, make sure to subscribe for more updates on the biggest stories in sports. Until next time, folks, thanks for tuning in, everyone. We'll be back soon with more updates and analysis on all things baseball. Stay safe, stay tuned, and as always, let's go Mets.